Ancient China's Birth, Unraveling the Secrets of the Xia, Shang, and Zhou Dynasties. Have you ever wondered about the very beginning of one of the world's longest-lasting civilizations? Imagine a time when towering walls protected nascent cities, when bronze gleamed with power and mystery, and when leaders claimed their right to rule directly from the heavens. This is not a fantasy, but the dramatic reality of ancient China, a story unfolding over thousands of years, shaping a nation that still stands strong today. But where did it all truly begin? For centuries, history books spoke of a legendary first dynasty, the Xia, a name whispered through the ages, attributed to a great hero who tamed the devastating floods. Was this merely a myth, a beautiful tale of origin, or was there a tangible kingdom beneath the layers of time? The answer lies buried in the less soil, slowly unearthed by archaeologists, challenging our very understanding of how a civilization is born. Today, we journey back to this foundational era, to the very cradle of Chinese civilization. We will trace the story from the enigmatic Xia through the magnificent and brutal Bronze Age of the Shang, and finally to the philosophical and political innovations of the mighty Zhou. This is a story of ingenuity, power, belief, and conflict, where the decisions of ancient kings and thinkers forged the bedrock of a civilization that would endure for millennia. Prepare to uncover the secrets of ancient China's birth. Our story begins in the vast and fertile Yellow River Valley, a region historically known as the Central Plains or Zhongyuan. This powerful river, the Huanghe, was both a giver of life and a bringer of immense destruction. Its fertile less soil, deposited over millennia, was perfect for early agriculture, allowing communities to settle and grow. But its unpredictable, devastating floods demanded organized, collective action on a scale never before seen. This constant battle with nature was a powerful catalyst for the formation of centralized authority. Before the dynasties, the land was dotted with various Neolithic cultures. The Yangshao culture, flourishing around 5000 to 3000 BCE, left behind vibrant painted pottery, indicating a sophisticated artistic tradition and settled agricultural life. Following them, the Longshan culture, from about 3000 to 1900 BCE, developed distinctive black pottery and showed signs of increasing social complexity, with early fortifications and larger settlements. These groups were not just farmers. They were laying the groundwork for something far greater, evolving from scattered villages to more complex chiefdoms. Then came the whispered name, the Xia Dynasty. According to traditional Chinese history, the Xia was China's first true dynasty, established around 2070 BCE. Its legendary founder was Yu the Great, a heroic figure credited with taming the devastating floods of the Yellow River. The stories tell of you tirelessly working for 13 years, building canals and dredging rivers, finally bringing order to chaos and earning the mandate to rule. This tale of flood control and benevolent leadership became a foundational myth, emphasizing the critical role of a virtuous ruler in ensuring the well-being of the people. But was the Xia a historical reality or a later idealized invention? For a long time, Western scholars viewed it as primarily legendary. However, archaeological findings at sites like Erlitou in Henan province, dating from roughly 1900 to 1500 BCE, have offered tantalizing clues. Erlitou was a large, sophisticated settlement with palace foundations, elite burial sites, and evidence of early bronze casting. While there is no definitive written evidence explicitly stating this is the Xia dynasty, the scale and complexity of Erlitou suggest a state-level society, a powerful proto-dynasty that could very well be the Xia described in later texts. The debate continues, making the Xia an enduring mystery at the very dawn of Chinese civilization. From these nascent beginnings, a new power rose, one whose existence would be irrevocably proven by the ground beneath our feet. The Shang Dynasty, emerging around 1600 BCE, marked a dramatic leap forward, ushering in China's true Bronze Age. This was not a subtle transition, but a profound transformation that would solidify the foundations of Chinese statehood and culture. The Shang would leave behind a legacy of technological brilliance, ritualistic grandeur, and the very first confirmed Chinese writing system. The Shang Dynasty consolidated power across the Yellow River Valley, establishing several capitals throughout its history, with its final and most famous capital at Yin near modern Anyang. This city was a testament to their might. Grand palaces, royal tombs filled with treasures, and specialized workshops that churned out weapons and ritual vessels of unparalleled quality. The sheer scale of these urban centers and the sophisticated organization required to build and maintain them speak volumes about the Shang's administrative capabilities. At the heart of Shang power was their mastery of bronze metallurgy. Unlike many other Bronze Age cultures, the Shang developed a unique direct casting method, allowing them to create exceptionally detailed and often massive bronze ritual vessels. These vessels, known as ding or gu, were not mere decorative items. They were central to Shang religious life, used in elaborate ceremonies to communicate with ancestors and a supreme deity, Shangdi. The control over bronze production, from mining to crafting, was a closely guarded secret, a monopoly that reinforced the ruling elite's power and prestige. But the most astonishing evidence of the Shang's existence came from something far more delicate: fragments of bone and shell. In the late 19th century, farmers in Anyang began unearthing what they called dragon bones, selling them to apothecaries as traditional medicine. Fortunately, some scholars recognized their true significance. These were oracle bones, turtle plastrons, and ox scapulae inscribed with ancient characters, used for divination. The discovery of the oracle bones, known as Jiaguan Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter, was revolutionary. These inscriptions, dating from the late Shang period, provided undeniable contemporary proof of the Shang dynasty, moving it from the realm of legend into verifiable history. The kings and diviners would pose questions to their ancestors or to Shangdi about everything from harvest fortunes and military campaigns to toothaches and childbirth. They would then heat the bones until they cracked, interpreting the patterns of the cracks as divine answers. These oracle bones offered an unparalleled window into Shang society. They revealed a theocratic political structure where the king served as the chief diviner, wielding immense religious and political authority. We learn about their complex bureaucracy, their incessant warfare against neighboring tribes, their elaborate ancestor worship, and even details of their daily lives, their hopes, and their fears. This script is also the direct ancestor of modern Chinese characters, a living link across thousands of years, making it one of the world's oldest continuously used writing systems. The Shang Dynasty, for all its brilliance, eventually faced its own decline. Traditional accounts describe the last Shang king, King Zhou Chinese letter, as a tyrannical and depraved ruler, infamous for his cruelty, his lavish excesses, and his neglect of the people. Tales speak of his wine pond and meat forest, a symbol of his decadent lifestyle and his brutal punishments. Whether these accounts are entirely accurate or embellished by later conquerors, they painted a picture of a ruler who had lost his moral compass and, crucially, the divine approval to govern. Meanwhile, in the western regions, a powerful new state was rising, the Zhou. Originally vassals of the Shang, the Zhou grew in strength, led by wise and virtuous rulers like King Wen. King Wen laid the groundwork for the overthrow, cultivating alliances and building a strong, disciplined army. His son, King Wu, would complete the task. The stage was set for one of the most pivotal power transitions in ancient Chinese history. Around 1046 BCE, King Wu led his allied forces, including dissatisfied Shang subjects and various western tribes, to confront King Zhou's army at the Battle of Mui. Accounts suggest the Shang army, demoralized and perhaps even turning against its own tyrannical ruler, collapsed quickly. King Zhou is said to have set himself on fire in his palace, bringing an end to the magnificent but flawed Shang Dynasty. The Zhou had triumphed. The Zhou faced a monumental task: how to legitimize their conquest of the Shang and govern such a vast territory. Their answer was a stroke of philosophical genius: the mandate of heaven, or Tiananmen. This concept asserted that heaven, a supreme cosmic force, granted the right to rule to a just and virtuous sovereign. However, this mandate was not eternal. If a ruler became corrupt, tyrannical, or incompetent, heaven would withdraw its mandate, manifesting through natural disasters, famine, or successful rebellion. The Zhou argued that the Shang had lost the mandate of heaven, and they, the virtuous Zhou, had been chosen to restore order. This concept of Tiananmen was revolutionary. It not only justified dynastic change, but also introduced a moral dimension to governance. A ruler was accountable to heaven and, by extension, to the welfare of the people. This ideology would become a cornerstone of Chinese political thought for over 2 millennia, influencing every subsequent dynasty and providing a framework for understanding history as a series of cyclical rises and falls. To manage their expansive realm, the Zhou implemented a decentralized system known as Fengjian, often translated as feudalism, though it differed significantly from its European counterpart. The Zhou king, while holding supreme authority, enfeoffed, granted land and authority to his relatives and loyal vassals. These lords, known as Yuhu, would govern their territories in exchange for military service, tribute, and unwavering loyalty to the Zhou king. This system was bolstered by the Zongfa, a patriarchal clan system emphasizing lineage and hereditary succession, often by primogeniture. The early Western Zhou period, c. 1046–771 BCE, was a time of relative stability and prosperity. The capital was established at Heiyajing near modern Xi'an. The Duke of Zhou, a key figure in consolidating the dynasty, is credited with codifying elaborate rituals, music, and court etiquette (li yue) that reinforced social hierarchy and political order. These institutions and the strong kinship ties initially held the vast Fengjian system together, creating a powerful, albeit indirectly controlled, empire. However, the very nature of the Fengjian system, designed for control, also sowed the seeds of its eventual decline. Over generations, the ties between the Zhou kings and their distant vassals weakened. The enfeoffed lords began to view their territories as hereditary possessions rather than grants from the king. They built their own armies, fortified their own cities, and developed their own regional power bases, gradually eroding the central authority of the Zhou monarchy. The turning point came in 771 BCE. Barbarian invasions from the west, combined with internal conflicts and the weakness of King Yu, led to the sacking of the western Zhou capital and the assassination of the king. The surviving Zhou royalty were forced to flee eastward, relocating their capital to Luoyang. This event marked the end of the Western Zhou and the beginning of the Eastern Zhou period, a long era where the Zhou kings held nominal power but possessed little actual authority. The Eastern Zhou, 771–256 BCE, is further divided into two tumultuous periods: the Spring and Autumn period, 771–476 BCE, and the Warring States period, 475–221 BCE. During the Spring and Autumn period, the vassal states, once loyal to the Zhou, grew increasingly independent and began to openly contend for dominance. Powerful regional lords formed alliances, waged wars, and expanded their territories, often at the expense of weaker states. The king in Luoyang was little more than a revered figurehead, consulted only for ceremonial legitimacy. The Warring States period took this fragmentation to an extreme. The numerous smaller states were consolidated into a handful of large, highly militarized powers, each vying to conquer all others and unify China under its own rule. This was an era of intense, brutal warfare, mass infantry armies, and the strategic deployment of cavalry and chariots. Innovations in iron metallurgy led to stronger weapons and agricultural tools, further transforming society. The very survival of a state depended on its military strength, its administrative efficiency, and its ability to mobilize its entire population for war. Amidst this chaos, however, a golden age of intellectual flourishing emerged. The breakdown of centralized authority forced thinkers to grapple with fundamental questions of governance, ethics, and social order. This period gave birth to the hundred schools of thought, with philosophers like Confucius, Laozi, and Han Fizi offering diverse solutions to the turmoil. Confucianism, emphasizing benevolent rule, filial piety, social harmony, and the cultivation of personal virtue, sought to restore the idealized order of the early Zhou. Taoism, advocating for a return to nature, simplicity, and a hands-off approach to governance, offered a path away from societal strife. Legalism, in stark contrast, championed strict laws, a powerful centralized state, and unquestioning obedience, believing that only a strong, authoritarian government could bring order. These philosophical schools, born from the crucible of conflict, would profoundly shape Chinese civilization for millennia. The story of the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties is far more than a mere chronology of kings and battles. It is the grand narrative of how a civilization came to be, how it experimented with different forms of governance, and how its people sought meaning and order amidst change and conflict. These early dynasties established the foundational paradigms that would shape Chinese history for over 2 millennia. First and foremost, the concept of the mandate of heaven, born from the Zhou's conquest of the Shang, became the ultimate source of political legitimacy in China. It provided a powerful ideological framework, justifying dynastic change while simultaneously imposing a moral obligation on rulers to govern justly. Even when later empires shifted to more bureaucratic systems, the underlying principle that a ruler's right to govern was conditional on their virtue and effectiveness endured, shaping the very nature of imperial power. The continuous evolution of the Chinese writing system, originating from the Shang oracle bone script, is another unparalleled legacy. Unlike many ancient scripts that died out, Chinese characters adapted and evolved, becoming a unifying force that transcended regional dialects and fostered a shared cultural identity across vast geographical distances and through countless centuries. This unbroken linguistic thread is a testament to the resilience and continuity of Chinese civilization. The intellectual ferment of the Eastern Zhou, particularly the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods, gave birth to philosophical traditions that deeply influenced not only China but also Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Confucianism, with its emphasis on ethics, family, and good governance, became the dominant ideological framework for imperial China. Taoism offered an alternative worldview, while legalism provided practical, albeit harsh, solutions for state building. These schools of thought shaped the ethical, social, and political fabric of East Asia. Technologically, the mastery of bronze casting during the Shang and early Zhou periods set a high standard for craftsmanship and metallurgical skill. The intricate ritual vessels and formidable weapons stand as enduring symbols of China's early technological prowess and artistic sophistication. These advancements laid the groundwork for future innovations in iron and other materials. Furthermore, these early dynasties established the very concept of China as a distinct cultural and political entity. The Yellow River Valley, the Zhongyuan, became the perceived center of civilization, contributing to the enduring idea of China as the Middle Kingdom. Despite periods of fragmentation, the memory and aspiration for a unified empire rooted in the legacy of the Xia, Shang, and Zhou would drive Chinese history for millennia. What can we learn from these ancient Chinese dynasties, from the shadowy Xia to the fragmented Zhou? We see universal patterns of human endeavor. The constant search for order out of chaos, the rise and fall of great powers, and the enduring tension between centralized authority and regional autonomy. These dynasties teach us about the profound power of ideology. The mandate of heaven was not just a political slogan, it was a deeply ingrained belief system that shaped the actions of rulers and justified the aspirations of rebels. It reminds us that governance is not just about power, but also about perceived legitimacy and moral responsibility. What systems of legitimacy do we rely on today, and how fragile might they be? We also witness the transformative impact of technology. Bronze metallurgy and later iron fundamentally altered warfare, agriculture, and social structures. The development of a sophisticated writing system enabled complex administration and the transmission of knowledge across generations. How do technological advancements today shape our societies and political landscapes in ways similar to ancient times? Consider the paradox of the Eastern Zhou, an era of intense warfare and political fragmentation, yet also a period of unparalleled philosophical creativity. It suggests that profound societal challenges can often ignite the brightest intellectual sparks, forcing humanity to confront fundamental questions about existence, ethics, and the ideal society. What lessons can we draw from this about finding wisdom in times of crisis? Finally, these dynasties highlight the enduring human quest for stable governance and social harmony. From Yu the Great's flood control to Confucius's vision of a virtuous society, the desire for order and prosperity has been a constant driving force. How do we, in our modern world, continue to strive for these same goals, learning from the successes and failures of those who came before us? The Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties are more than just chapters in a history book. They are the epic prologue to the grand story of China. From the debated origins of the Xia to the undeniable brilliance of the Shang's bronze and script, and finally, to the Zhou's profound political and philosophical innovations, these periods laid the essential groundwork for a civilization that would shape a continent and endure for millennia. If you found this journey into ancient China fascinating, consider delving deeper into the story. You might be interested in the ultimate unification of China under the Qin dynasty, the philosophical schools of the Eastern Zhou in more detail, or the subsequent golden ages of the Han dynasty. Each era builds upon these ancient foundations, revealing more layers of China's incredible past. Join us again as we continue to uncover the captivating stories that shaped our world.